Hi everyone, it's Anne. Welcome to Art on the Creek. We are here for lesson number 12 of our first 15 beginner watercolor lessons. I'm so excited. Look at our art wall. We've got so much going on back there. You guys have accomplished so much. Even though this is lesson 12, you can do them in any order, and I'll put a link to the playlist in the description so you can pause the videos, start them, do them at your own pace, whatever you want to do. Today, since we are in April and spring is definitely around the corner, I thought we could paint something having to do a little bit with Easter. Let's paint a sweet little baby chick. Are you ready? Here we go. This time I've torn the paper off of our book here. I've just torn one out, and what I'm going to do is tape it to this. This is just the back of a watercolor pad. All right, now that we've got that all set, we can go ahead and draw our little chickie. Now our photo reference is from Pixabay, and I will put a link to that in the description. And I'll also put it up over here while I'm drawing so that you guys can see what we're doing. I'm going to try and draw it heavily at first, and then we'll erase it so that the graphite doesn't show through on the yellow paint of our chick. So right over here we have his little egg, his former home. I have a little trouble starting that there. And you can just do a little kind of a like that. And then let's see, he's just coming right up here. There's his back and his head. See, he's about 2 eggs tall, so that ought to work. 2 eggs tall. I wonder if that's a standard chicken measurement when the mama hen marks the little lines on her kitchen door. And for the beak, I'm just going to turn it just a little. And let's see, we'll come up here. It's kind of under the eye. He's got like a little frown. He's an angry chicken. Now he has just no personality whatsoever. Let's fix that a little. Change the shape of his head for one. And I think his eye might just be a little bit too big. There we go. And that beak is problematic. Sometimes when you're drawing, at least this happens to me a lot, you just kind of have to do it again. He has kind of this little nose right here. It comes down. There, that's a little bit better. All right. Get rid of that line there. And that one. And then, okay, so now what I'm going to do is to take our kneaded eraser, and I'm just going to make it kind of a sausagey shape. And I'm just going to roll it just to make these lines a little less visible. This is a good idea to do when you're using paler colors, because watercolor, once you put it over pencil, it stays. So now, surprise, surprise, we're not going to go in with our larger brush today. We're going to go in with our number 6. We're not going to do the the stroke brush that we normally do. So I'm just going with the number 6, and I'm sorry if you can't see these lines, but you should be able to see your own. We're just going to go in and follow this chicky shape. And now I'm coming in with just water. And I'm just pulling that lemon yellow around. Going to get some more pigment. And it doesn't matter if you get it in the beak because that is going to be orange, which will be darker. So this way, by putting the bulk of the pigment back here and then pulling it out with water, it will give us some natural gradients. And if you look closely, you can see that his tummy is just a little bit lighter than the rest of him. So let's do a little bit of lifting off technique. That is where you dip your brush in water, blot it off, and then kind of firmly wipe it along the part that you want to be lighter. So I know it's yellow and that's kind of hard to pick up on camera, but we're just making his chest a little bit lighter. And we can also do that a little bit back here on his head and a little bit on his back. Not much, just a little. So we don't want those lines to be hard, so let's just kind of try to blend those lifts in a little. There, I think that's pretty good. Now we can work on his egg. I'm going to go in with the burnt sienna and very lightly, or with a very thin wash rather, we can get that painted. Put this case we want the bulk of the pigment to be at the bottom. Now here we've got something a little bit tricky, and I'm going to show you how to do this. You want to be able to leave space because we don't want the color of the egg to merge into the chicken. So we're going to just barely come up to that and not touch it. And that is leaving space there, so that our watercolors don't blend and merge too much. Sometimes you want them to do that, but not right now. Not in this case. And then while this is still wet, we can go in with some more of that pigment. This would be damp into wet because the pigment that we're putting in has less water than the pigment that we're going towards. And let's just add some interest to this egg. There we are. Now I'm going to let that dry naturally, and let's go over to this beak here. Now our little guy has kind of an orange beak, but I'm going to use the burnt sienna actually because I don't want it to be too orange. So we're going in with our burnt sienna. And I kind of have too much water on there. We'll just fill that in. This is just the first wash, so we're going to be very light with it. And we're going to leave a little bit of space in between the portions where his mouth opens and closes. You see that little tiny bit of white right there? We're going to leave that in. And then I'm taking my brush, is kind of flattened out. You can even squeeze it to make it flat like a blade like that. And then what we can do is negative paint some of these feathers in like so. So what that means is now it looks like the yellow feathers are coming into the beak. Now I want to make sure that that eye is really dry before we go ahead and paint it in. So let me do that. All right, so with our same number 4 brush, we're going to go ahead and go into that black for his eye. So get some pigment on your brush, blot it off, and then we'll come in here where you can see. And I've left that highlight, and we're going to take a peek at his eye. It's a little rounder than what I have it here, so let me make this round. And now we can fill in everywhere except that highlight. There we go. Now, with this beak, while we've got this zoomed in here, let's go into the burnt umber. That's our darker brown. And now let's work on this little space right here that's in between his, this little part that's in between his mouth. He's got like a ridge, so we'll just go just under that white line. And then there are just some more little colorations there. And he's got kind of little nostrils. So we'll put one over here we can barely see, and we'll put this one right here. There, I think that's going to work. Now, let's make sure he's dry again. I got a little bit of seepage here. So what we're going to do is just go into our burnt sienna, and we'll just correct that a little bit. We'll just make that part of the egg. And now with the wet brush, we'll help to pull that pigment out. And that'll just give our egg a nice, natural looking texture. That's one of the funnest things about watercolor, is when you can let the paints work for you. So let me give that a dry with the heat tool. Get out your big brush, and let's just get some water on the subject here. Sap green. We want to get as much pigment down as we possibly can. I'm kind of putting my big brush over both greens and just dropping in loads of pigment. Now for the fun part. You can just use ordinary table salt. I happen to have this kosher-y kind of salt, and we're just going to sprinkle it on the wet paint. You can be as generous or as frugal with it as you like. This is called, not surprisingly, salt technique, or using salt. And what this will do is, let me zoom in here to where you can see what's happening. All of this pigment right around here is going to be absorbed by the salt. The salt will draw that in, and then it will dry with like a little starburst around it. So the hard part about this is you do need to let it sit and let it wait to dry. So let's do that, and we'll be back when it's finished. Alrighty, our little chickie has had time to dry, so what I want to do now is just to take a clean paper towel. Let's get a new one. And I want to gently remove the salt. It does stick a little, so you do need to kind of scrub, but you won't hurt anything. And now this looks a little simple. It's not quite done. I thought what we would do, since we haven't done it in a while, is to get out our colored pencils. So here, these are the colors that are in a basic set of 12 colored pencils. And let's start with our brown. Actually, let's start with this egg here a little bit. We're just going to work on shading. I'm holding the pencil back here and very lightly adding some shading and interest to this egg. And right in here on our reference, there was a little crack. So we can kind of fill that in. Now for some grasses. Now let's have a little bit of fun here with this. We'll start with the green and we're just going to make little flicks in varying directions. And now let's go in with our darker green and do a few there. And now we're going to take our white and we're just going to add a little bit to the chest of our bird and the wing. Just doing little circles with a medium pressure here. What this is doing is kind of softening out those white edges that we have, the white areas rather. And that'll help differentiate them from the yellow just a little. And now I do want to go into the yellow and let's kind of go around the edge of our chick. Same thing, a very light pressure. Now when we get here on his neck, let's go ahead and add some feathers very lightly, just little lines. Just adding a little bit of a shadow in here. And now let's go in with our darker blue, violet blue. All right, he has some really cute little marks right in here. So let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing very lightly with the pencil. We're just getting a little bit of marks right here. And then we can kind of fill in his beak a little. And let's see, very lightly with the edge of the pencil, we're just going to put in a little bit of shading down here. Just to kind of suggest where his wing would be. And now with our lighter blue, I'm just going to barely color right in here. Now with our white, let's go into the tip of the beak there and get that highlight in. Just like that. So simple. And now we can go and add just a little bit of downy feathers around his head. Just giving it a nice little fuzzy edge. There we are, and now we can come in with the yellow. And really this is just adding a bit of a soft glow to our little chickie. It's not necessary. You don't have to do this part, but it does make for kind of a fun little softness to him. And that's just done with the yellow and the white. I think our little chickie looks pretty cute. We had quite a bit of leaking going on around here. So, if we remember, our bleed-proof white will take care of that. And I need to get some water. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more shading here under his chin. There we go. There's our little Easter chick. And there we go. We've got him all set, all ready for Easter. I hope you guys had fun doing this one. We'll see you next time. Bye now. I hope everyone has a wonderful Easter this weekend if you're celebrating, and if not, just enjoy the spring. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks again. Bye now.